ちは、ゆみです。
And this is Clay. Today we're going to look at Crayon Shinchan.
クレヨンしんちゃん。
Kind of like Japanese version of Dennis the Menace. He's 5 years old, he's in kindergarten, and he's kind of rude sometimes, but I don't think he's mean-spirited. I think he doesn't really mean to be mean, and he messes up a lot with his language, which you might think, well, that's probably not a good way to study Japanese, is it? If he's saying things that are wrong. But the good thing about it is oftentimes people around him will correct him. And if he's saying like an idiom or a proverb or saying that he messes up and someone corrects them, then you can be sure that most Japanese people will know that idiom or proverb. So that's one reason why I like Crayon Shinchan, because he makes mistakes, but he's often corrected in the manga or the anime, and it's useful. But a lot of people don't really like him because he's kind of rude. I guess, Yumi, that's...
ちょっとね、お行儀が悪い子供です。
Yeah. So Yumi is not a big fan, but I loved it as a beginner. I worked through it really hard, and I had my dictionary, and I looked up every word, and it was a challenge. I don't recommend it for very beginners, but for upper beginners and intermediates, it's a great manga because, as I said before, he messes up and he's corrected, and it's a useful idiom or a useful saying. Also, the stories are short. They aren't very long, so you can just sit down, study, read one story, and you're done. Let's get started with today's manga. It's just going to be one short story, and Yumi's going to read the header.
またまたオラと母ちゃんの激しいバトルが始まるぞ編その1。
So he's saying again and again he's fighting against his mother, and hen means chapter. Sono-ichi means the first. This is the first of a series. So there'll be a sono-ni, sono-san.
その3、その1、その4。
All right, so let's start with the next. Now these squares, what's it called in English? Squares? No, they're not squares. Panels, I think. They're called panels in manga, in comics.
あ、1コマ。
But in Japanese it's called
コマ。
koma. So the first koma is, let's go ahead and read it.
〇〇市〇〇公園に空き缶で作った恐竜が登場しました。お
And there he goes. So the maru maru, what does that mean?
特別な場所なんとかね、特別にのなんとか市なんとか公園。
So we don't know it exactly, and it's not really important. The only thing that's important is that it's at a park. So it's some city, in a certain park. Let's see, Akikan. Akikan is...
空き缶は空いている缶。
So an empty can, right? So like not plastic, aluminum can. Akikan. And so he's making it out of the empty cans. He's making a dinosaur.
そう、恐竜が登場しました。誰かが作った。
And Yumi knows this. I think I've got it down now, but I used to get Kyuryo and Kyoryu all mixed up. You know, one is payday or pay, and the other is dinosaur. There was something about that. So be careful with Kyoryu.
恐竜、給料じゃなくて恐竜ね。
So
給料は何のことをしてる？そう。
yeah.
恐竜と給料全然違うから。
But Kyoryu, so I guess dinosaur means terrible lizard, right? In Latin or English, wherever it came from. But Kyoryu means
今日は恐ろしい。
Scary
そう。竜は
dragon.
ドラゴン。
Scary dragon. Okay. And then you have Tojo shimashita. Tojo means it appears. So this is a news broadcast that he's looking at, and they've collected all this trash, all the akikan, the empty cans, and they've made something useful or not useful, but neat out of it. A dragon, or a dinosaur. And of course, Shinchan is very interested. Okay, now let's get to the next koma, and the next panel.
オラも空き缶でアクション仮面を作りたい。
And so he's made a decision. I'm also going to... Oh, by the way, he doesn't say boku or watashi. He says
オラ。
ora, which I guess is a childish way to say ore.
そうね。
Ora. Is that used? Do children say ora?
言わない言わない。
Is this really just Shinchan's language, or have you heard people actually say that?
オラはちょっと田舎の子供が言うかもしれないけど、使わないね。
So it might be in like dialects, but this is really just Shinchan's. Instead of saying ore, and ore is kind of a masculine way to say eat me, but instead of, he's being kind of cute, but also he's trying to show off his masculinity, maybe.
でも
Maybe.
あまり
オラ
俺って言わない方がいいと思うよ。
Yeah, well, オラも。
オラ
So
も。
I also, 空き缶 empty can, で with the empty can. So action kamen. So kamen means mask, right? But here it's talking about like a masked adventure, right? Like Gekko Kamen Rider,
そう、月光仮面とかね。
Power Rangers,
月光仮面。
superheroes that wear mask use a kamen
そう、顔隠している人。ね。
to hide their secret identities. And so his television show that he always watches is called
アクション仮面。
so Action Masked Avenger or something like that. And he loves it. So he's decided he's got inspiration from them and he's going to build a action
アクション仮面作りたい。
figure, I guess.
うん。
All right, let's go to the next one. So he's decided.
よし、早速行動開始だ。
Okay, Yosh shows I'm determination. Yosh, I'm going to do it. Sassoku. What does that mean?
早速は今すぐ。
Immediately. Soon. Kodo kaishi.
行動はアクションでしょ。開始は始める。
Okay, so kodo is to start something. It's interesting that it's written all in hiragana. I guess it's because he's saying it as a 5-year-old, but
そう、漢字が書けないのね。
Mm.
漢字
but
知らない
the。more kanji you know, it would be easier to read it and immediately get the meaning, I think, if you had it written in kanji. But anyway, kodo kaishi. Kaishi is to start the action, to start doing. He's going to do it. But it's also kind of a stiff way or a cool way of
そうね。
say,
ちょっと
I'm doing this, it's not just I think I'll just start. No, he's saying, I'm going to do it.
まあ、5歳の子供が使うにしては難しい言葉だね。
All right, so next panel.
まず作戦会議だ。ジュースとお茶菓子が必要だな。
So first we have to have a planning meeting for a strategic meeting. And in order to have a meeting, of course, you have to have juice, ochagashi.
お茶菓子。
What is
お
ochagashi?
茶菓子はお茶を飲むときに一緒に食べるお菓子。
Is it always sweet stuff like yokan or is it
スイートとは限らないけど、でも、
just something you eat while you're
そう
drinking
そう
tea?
そうまあ何でもスナックのことね。何でもいいから。
So juice and ochagashi are essential. I have to have juice and in this ochagashi. Juice now, that's not necessarily just juice though, is it? Can it be even soft drinks?
ソフトドリンクでもいいし、別にいらないけどね。
Yeah, in English we think of kuromono, fruit juice. But you can't really say that Coca-Cola is juice. But I know your mother sometimes says, "Don't drink that juice,"
ジュースね。
but it's really talking about a Coke or something. So juice is something that you can just drink as a kind of a
ちょっ
snack.
と甘い、ちょっと甘い
A little sweet.
飲み物とか、コカ・コーラみたいなのは、
入ってるかな。
そう、ジュースだね。
Okay, let's move to the next. Oh, actually, no. Let's step back. What is this? He says scoot.
すく、
What does that mean?
すくっと立つと言います。立つときに素早く立つのはすく。
So it's showing his
そう、
his action.
So.
He's really making a determined action.
そう。あ、
So.
オノマトペ。
Yes, onomatopoeia. I love Japanese is so full of these little sound words, and it just makes like I didn't really realize that, but scoot, to make him shown that he's standing up and making that determination it just adds a little bit to it. And then going back to this one, he has the ta 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 ta, which I guess is the sound of his
そう、タタタ
feet.
と走る。そう
Ta ta ta. Okay, next.
ね、次はパクパク、ゴクゴク。
Okay, so pakapaku is for eating,
いい天気。
and
そう
goku goku.
飲む音。
So paku-paku, if that sounds familiar, you might know from the 1980s, Pac-Man,
パクマン。
Pac-Man. So paka
パクパク、そう、パ
paka.
クパク食べるからパックマンなの。
I think that's probably where it came from. So Pak, and it was made by Japanese, wasn't it?
そうだよ、そうだよ。
Yeah.
パックマンは日本から。
Okay, and then the next panel, the next koma is,
ふう。
and that's just a sign of
お腹いっぱい。
he ate a lot and he's done. He's finished his kaigi, his meeting.
ふう。
Okay, next.
よし、会議終わり。
And he said, "Yep, my meeting is done."
この子はさ、知らないから本当の会議って知らないけど、
yeah,
何かやるときは会議をするっていうことだけを覚えてるのね、5歳だから。
yeah,
でもだから本当の会議っていうのはたくさんの人が集まっていろいろ意見を出し合うことなんだけど、この子は、まだ5歳だから何か始めるときは会議をすると思って一人で会議をしてる。
and he sees the meetings, and they always bring out ocha, or they bring out the snacks maybe also during meetings, or when someone goes to the kocho sensei's, oh, let me bring ocha, or
そうね、
okay.
そういうとこだけ覚えてるのね。会議の本当の意味はあんまりわからない。
All right, next panel.
次は設計図を書こう。書き。設計図はブループリント。
Blueprint. He's figuring out how it should look. So the next thing to do is to write out the blueprint. And then kaki.
そう、書き。これは設計図っていうところはひらがなで書いてあるから、漢字で書いてないから、またこの子も意味わからないで、ただ何かをするときは絵を描くものだと思って。
Yeah, so sometimes it has kanji like tsugi. But that's because he understands, maybe that's because he knows that word. But sekkeizu, he maybe kind of understands what it is, but he doesn't really know. He gets confused. But, that makes sense.
多分ね、わからないからひらがな。
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, because I've often wondered when I'm reading Shinchan, like, why does it seem so random? But that makes sense. It's kind of difficult kanji, and
そして意味もあまり分かって
he
な
doesn't
い。
really understand.
ただ何かやるときは絵を描くんだと思って描いてるだけなの。
And then kaki is just from kaku, right? From writing.
Kaki.
Just the sound of him writing. Right, next koma.
できた。
I finished. I did it. So he got his blueprint.
そう、アクション画面の絵を描いたのね。
All right, next.
次はいよいよカンカンを集めよ
All right, tsugi wa next. As for the next thing, yo-yo. Yo-yo is kind of like finally at long last,
う。
right?
そういう感じ。カンカンは空き缶のことね。カンカンっていうの。
Why is it? Okay, so akikan, kankan, you?
言う。
Okay.
空き缶じゃなくて、カンカンあるとか、カンカン持ってきてねとか。
And then atsumeyo means he's saying, I will gather them together. I will gather all the empty cans. And I'm finally ready to gather the empty cans. He's finally ready to get started with his master plan. All right, next.
母ちゃん。か
Ka-chan. So he calls his mother, sometimes he calls her by her first name, which is kind of rude, especially in Japan. I think you kids never call their parents their first name.
ああ、そう、名前では呼ばない。
Just like in America or in most English-speaking countries, I imagine, probably all children don't call their parents by their first name, but often he does, unless he's trying to get on her good side. So he's coming to her asking for a favor, so he's a little bit polite by saying ka-chan. It really should be oka-san,
お
right?
母さんかママかね。
Mama.
うん、
And not but ka-chan
お
is
母
more,
ちゃんでもいいよ。うん、
but ka-chan is very familiar, and I guess do children call their parents mother ka-chan?
私は子供の時母ちゃんって言ってたね。
Okay.
5歳ぐらいの時に。
父ちゃん？
小学校に上がってからはお母さんになったけど。
And he's still in kindergarten, so he's okay. And the kuka is just her sleeping sound.
寝てる音。
All right, next.
よ。
Yo, okay.
Yo.
Does that explain why he's lifting her leg? Obviously, he's trying to wake her up, but the yo, what is yo to you?
よいしょのよかな。
Yoisho.
よ
Okay.
ってあげるときに声をか
So,
け
and
るから。
a lot of Japanese, whenever they do
Yo.
some exertion, they do something, some physical action. Yoisho.
そう、よいしょ
よいしょ
のよだと思うね。
あ And then then pa,
どさ。
dosa. And okay, pa is the act of releasing the pa. And then the dosa is the boom, the kind of the loud
さ
sound. And then he goes with the next leg. Next comma. No, there's nothing to read. Okay. And pa, dosa. And she's still asleep. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then Shinchan looks at his mother who's awake now.
何こっちのセリフだよ。
So he's lifting up her leg and he says, "What? Why are you looking at me?" Basically, and she says, "Kochi no serufu da yo." So that's my lines. That's what I should be saying. Kochi no serufu da yo is used a lot in Shinchan.
うん、そう
So
ね
a。lot of times Shinchan, okay, number one, he will make mistakes and people will correct him, which is a great learning experience. But another thing he'll do is he'll often say things that the other person should be saying. For example, oftentimes when he comes home, he doesn't say tadaima, he says okaeri.
そうだね。
And then the mother says tadaima desho,
そ
or
う
something like that.
逆に
So
ね。
yeah, so Shinchan will often say the wrong thing at what the other person should be saying. And so you often hear this line, kochi no serufu da yo. That's what I should be saying. Serufu though, serufu is, I don't know where that came from, if it's from a foreign, like German or something, but it's like for learning your lines in like a acting, right?
うん、そうそう。
Serufu, is that mostly what it's used for? Is that
セリフはお芝居の中で使うね。
so plays and
お
acting?
芝居とかドラマと
The
か。
lines that you have to memorize. Okay, next.
なんかよ、カンカンある
So she's still half asleep and she says, "All right, what business do you have? What do you want?" Nanka, something, yo means your business or
うん、
what is it that you need? And he says, "Kankan aru? Do you have empty cans?"
今朝ゴミの日だったから全部出しちゃったわよ。
So this morning was the trash day, so she's put out all of the kankan, all of the empty cans, unfortunately. So, next one.
あ、ちょっと待って。たたた。
So he says, "Wait, just a minute, just a moment." And he looks so happy here. Ta ta ta. And he comes back with a toy car.
もう一回今のセリフ言って。たたた。
All right. Mokai is short for moikai,
もう
right?
一回。
Moikai. So one more time, imano serufu, what you just said. Itta, ite. So ite is please say again. Please say again one more time what you just said. And she's like, "What?" And she said,
今朝ゴミの日で空き缶は全部出しちゃった。
she says the same thing again, just as he asked her to do. This morning, trash has already came in. I took all the empty cans out. And the next line is,
ショック。ダシャン。本当にショックなんかい
so the idea is if you're holding something and you hear this shocking news that just really upsets you, you just drop whatever you have in the shock, right?
そう。それがやりたかったのね。
So
何か落としてみたかったの。
he wasn't holding anything when she said the shocking words. So he had to go get something to hold, maybe something that he liked a lot, and drop it. So shock,
で
which is shock.
でもそんなことをわざわざするからお母さんは本当にショックなのかしらって言ってるのね。
Yeah, that's not real shock, is it? But that's Shinchan. Then he has an idea in the next comma.
グビグビグビビール。
Gooby Gooby is what was the other
ごくご
Paku
く
Paku Goku?
ご
Goku?
くごく。
Is there a difference between Goku Goku and
Go-
Gooby Gooby?
ごくごくとグビグビはちょっと違うね。ごくごくはなんかもっと爽やかなものをさ、まあ英語で言ったら同じだけど両方同じだけど、グビグビはなんかもうちょっと口を細くしてと飲む感じ。まあほとんど同じ。
Okay, so he is imagining his father coming home and he's sweating and he's hot and he's been working all day and he.
これはお風呂上がり。お風呂から出て。
Okay, that's
So-
why. So he's not sweating, but he's coming out of the bath
そうそ
and
う
he's
そう。
wet and it's hot, and then he has
ビール。
a beer, a
冷たいビール。
cold beer.
お風呂上がりのビールは最高ね。
Ofuro agari.
Mm.
So agari means to come out of the bath. But if you said ofuro agari, that kind of implies beer, is it? Or like a or mugicha or something like that?
ビール飲む人多いね。美味しい。
So,
夏は特に。
so that's what he's imagining, and you know what he's planning, because then he can get an empty can, right? After his father finishes.
そう。
Next,
プハー、空き缶、ニヤ。
puha. So that's the taste of after it, bah! Like, and akikan, of course, that's what he wants. And but niya, what's that? Is that
ニヤは笑ってる時の オノ
yeah?
マトペ。そうニヤ。
Yeah. So he has a good idea. He has a good idea. All right.
はい。夜、ただいま。
And here's the father. He's home. What's the father's name? Do you know? I've forgotten.
忘れちゃった。ミサエと、
Hiroshi-chan.
ヒロシ。
Hiroshi? We'll have to look it up. Anyway. All right. So he comes home. It's yoru. Yoru means evening, and
ただいま。
tadaima. So he says it correctly, but he's tired. It's not just tadaima. Tadaima. It's tadaima, right? And
まあ、そうそう。そういう感じ。
maybe.
普通に帰ってきた。
Okay, but he's tired. And then here's Shinchan bowing to the ground.
お帰りなさいませ。熱でもあんのか？日本の昔の奥さんは旦那さんが帰ってくるときにこうやって三つ指ついてお辞儀するって言うんだけど
You've never done that for me.
今しない今誰もしないけど
Is there a phrase or a way to describe what Shinchan is doing here?
お帰りなさい。まあ三つ指ついてお迎えするっていうかな。これ三つ指ってこれね。三本の指をこうついてお帰りなさいませ。
Okay.
でもメイドさんとかやるかもね。メイドカフェを。
Maid of
お
cafe.
帰りなさいま
We've
せ。
never been to one of those.
お帰りなさいませ、ご主人様ってやるときこうするじゃない？これ三つ指のつも
I
り
thought it was
か
kind of a
も。
neko. I mean, a cat. Kind of
これ
a.
かな？わかんない。もしかしたら三つ指ついてのその伝統かも。
Okay. So what does he say?
熱でもあんのか？病気じゃないのかって言ってる。
So okaeri nasaimase. So it's not just okaeri. It's okaeri nasaimase. It's very, very, very super polite, showing humble language before his father, which is something Shinchan would never do, except when he wants something.
何か企んでるね。
Yep. So netsu demo aru ka. So he's saying, do you have a fever? What's wrong with you? Let's find out the next one.
お風呂にしますか？ご飯にしますか？今日はお風呂はいいや。どっかぶつけたのか？
So ofuro nishimasu. So nishimasu means would you like, or do you choose, or do you want to do? And do you want to do it? So do you want to ofuro? Do you want to go to take a bath, or do you want gohan? If you want your meal, and he says kyo. So he's kind of like taken aback. He's still, what's going on? Kyo. Furo.
今日はお風呂はいらない。どっかぶつけたのかっていうの頭をぶつけてちょっとおかしくなってるのかな。
So furo. I don't need
いらないという意味。
So that's what Shinchan was hoping for because of the ofuro agari.
お風呂上がりのビール。
Ofuro agari biru. That way he can have the empty can. But unfortunately, his plan is falling apart. And then his father says, "Did you hit your head something, or hit your head or something somewhere?"
そう頭ぶつけたんじゃないのって。
All right, next line.
ただいまおビールを持ってきます。今日は飲まないからいいや。
Okay, this is tadaima, but it's a different tadaima than the tadaima that you receive people when they come into the house, right? So this means like now. I will immediately go.
そう。
Wait just a minute, I'll go.
ただいまっていうのは right now ということ。
Right now. So right now, I'll bring you a beer.
ただいま帰りましたの略なのね。家に帰った時にただいまっていうのはね、ただいま帰りましたとか、ただいま戻りました。
Oh, which means right now I've returned.
そう。
Okay. Yeah, okay. I should have known that, but that makes sense.
でしょ？
So it makes
ただいま
I've
戻りま
come
した。
back now. Right now I'm back.
略してるのね。ただいま戻りましたのところね。
Okay. So 今日は飲まないか。So he's not drinking today. So I'm going to bring you a beer. Wait, I'm not drinking today.
今、なんと、ここのとこ飲みすぎてたから、今日は休館日でビールはいらない。
I love Shinchan's face. Look at that. He has kind of like a shadow falling upon his face, and he's looking at him sideways. And ima, nanto? Ima. Just like his father said, what was it? Kyo. He says, ima. What did you just say right now? Nanto oshaimasu? Or
なんとおっしゃい
imasu?
ましたか？そうそうそう。
What? So it's short for like, what did you just say? Or what did you say? He says, can you read that one more time, this part?
ここんとこ飲みすぎてだから今日は休館日でビールはいらない。ここのところはそう最近ってこと。
Okay. At this point or recently, nomisugi, I've been drinking too much. So today you have resting liver day, right?
休
Kyukanbi.
館日。
Is
そう
that used? Do you say that? Kyukanbi?
今でも使うと思うね、休館日。
Literally, it means rest your liver day, the day for resting your liver. So obviously, it means no alcohol for that day. Kyukanbi de biru wa iranai. So I don't need a beer because today is the day of resting one's liver. So Shinchan's plans are falling apart. And here on the next line is just beautiful. Oh, before you read it, the lines are round now, which kind of indicates, I guess, his sozo, right? His imagination.
そう頭の中で考えていること
So
ね。
it's stepping out of the story into kind of an imaginary story.
しんのすけの今の心理状態。七子お姉さんち。ラララーン。
Okay, first of all, let's Nanako. Nanako is his, I guess they're neighbors, but she's probably around Hatachi, around 20 years old. She's his dream girl. Oh, I should mention, Shinchan is 5 years old, but he loves to hit on older women. Hey, Kanojo!
そうそうそうそう。
And Nanako is his dream girl. And she's like a neighbor or something, and occasionally whenever he meets her, he actually pretends to be a really polite young boy around Nanako. Everyone else, he's kind of this crazy 5-year-old, but around Nanako, he's like a super polite boy. So anyway, so ima no shindi jotai, so his psychological or his emotional condition.
そうそうそう。
His emotional condition. So right now here, and also you should say Shinnosuke instead of Shinchan he's called Shinchan, but his full name is Shinnosuke.
しんのすけ
So
くん。
in the manga, I guess in the anime too, he's either called Shinchan or Shinnosuke. He's not ever that I've heard called Crayon Shinchan by anybody in the stories.
ああ、ないないない。
But I think the crayon stands for him being a young boy.
5歳だからね。
So he uses crayons. So anyway, Shinnosuke no, so Shinnosuke's emotional condition, and he's so happy. Da 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 is singing, right? So da 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 da. And Nanako no, in
で、これ
Nanako's
ちょっ
house.
とスキップしてる、ね。
Ah, she's skipping. He is so, and then the stars that
そう。綺麗な
the
綺麗
diamonds,
なお
the
家に行
flowers.
くと、そうそうそう。
pika pika. Everything was
So-
really really nice, beautiful. And then the next scene.
ゴ
Of course, you know what's happening. It's about to destroy. The next scene,
ー、ドボーン。
the boom, the sound of explosion, of landing of the asteroid, and
津波が来て、七子お姉さんちが飲み込まれちゃった。ごうそ、ディープインパクト。
so this I'm not sure when this manga. See, this is number 23. So this was done in the 1990s, I think. So Deep Impact was a very famous. I think was that Bruce Willis movie. Was that?
覚えてないね。
Anyway, it's a famous movie from the 90s about an asteroid that destroys the Earth, and the astronauts have to go up and save.
今日見ましょうか。
Yeah, you have to watch it in Japanese.
いいよ。
So, I can't believe it. Now, what is the go?
ゴーはこれ津波の音。
Oh, so that's the sound of water.
So,
Russian.
so.
Go. Okay. A lot of water. And deep impact. And it's all written in hiragana. I guess that's because he's a gosai.
そうそう、5歳だから知らないの。
Even though normally deep impact would be written in katakana.
こんな気持ちじゃ眠れない。た
This introduces his baby sister, Himawari.
Himawari-chan.
Hima-chan. And she's, I guess she's less than a year old, and all she really says is ta.
ああ、そうね。
Mostly.
確かに言わないね。
But he's saying, with such a feeling, I can't get to sleep. I can't go to sleep feeling like this. この気持ちじゃ眠らない。
そう。1分後、グガ
But 1 minute later, he's snoring. He's
ー。
asleep.
5
There's
歳。
even a little bit of slobber coming out of his
い
mouth.
や、5歳だからね。翌日。
The next day, so yokujitsu is often used as to show that time has passed. Next day.
パ、ひょい、カランコロン、ひょい。ひょいひょいかな。
So the hyoi is kind of the tossing sound, right?
そうそう。
Pa is picking up, or maybe the sound of the aluminum.
とても素早く一生懸命拾ってるのね。
Okay, so he's working really hard and really fast. He's collecting all these empty cans. Man, he is getting good.
ずっしり。
Zushiri means
ずっ
what?
しり
Just
は
kind of
こう重いものがいっぱい入ってるっていう。
so
そ
he's
れを
just kind of
ずっしり。
finished his work.
うん。
All right, so he's
ずっしり。
gathered all these cans. He can build his action ranger.
ありがとう、坊やも手伝ってくれたのかい？この空き缶はこっちで処分しとくよ。ご褒美だよ。
Okay, so here are the oba-san tachi are the
おじいさんとかね、おばあさんとかが。
so I guess the neighborhood people who are volunteering to clean things up, and they're so happy that this young lad would help them, and they're saying, thank you so much for helping out. We'll take care of the empty cans for you, and as a reward, gohobi means a reward.
さあ、ご褒美。
Here is 16 cha, 16 cha.
16茶。
16茶。 And you said that is that a brand name, or is that a
うん、お茶の名前で16茶ってあるね。16種類のお茶をブレンドして作ってある
blend?
お茶。美味しいよ。
Okay. And then the last frame.
キーコキーコチュー。
So chew means the slurping sound, right?
そうです。キ
Okay.
ーコキーコはブランコが揺れてる音ね。
So he's kind of sabishi.
がっかりしてるんだと思うよ。
He's upset. He's devastated. His little point for eyes. He's like, after all that work.
そうちょっと微妙な心かな。なんていうか、一生懸命自分の目的のためにカンカンを拾ったんだけど、おじいちゃんおばあちゃんにあらお手伝いしてくれてありがとうって褒められて取られちゃったから。
So you can't say, no, I'm keeping the empty
そう
cans.
言えなかったの。
But at least he got some ocha.
お茶だけもらったの。だからちょっとなんていうのかな、虚しい気持ちかな。かわいそうね。しんちゃん頑張ったのにね。
Yep. So this was a Shinchan episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If this helped you, please let us know what you would like to see in the future. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
さよなら。
Bye-bye.